Alright everyone, welcome back to the MMA Business Hour. And in today's episode, I want to give my reaction to the Islam Makhachev Alexander Volkanovski championship fight this past Saturday at UFC 284 in Perth. First off, it was an absolute incredible fight. Whether you thought Islam won or you thought Volkanovski won, I think everyone got their money's worth in this card, particularly because I wasn't the biggest fan of the way this card was constructed. We had, two good fights. The main card kind of left a little bit to be desired. Yair Rodriguez had a great win over Josh Emmett, which I thought was going to happen. But okay, let's get back to the Islam fight. There's been a lot of controversy over this fight, especially in the last coming days, with Dan Hooker coming out and saying that Islam Makhachev used an IV after the weigh-in to rehydrate. What are my thoughts on that? The MMA Guru posted an amazing video breaking down some of the images on Islam Makhachev's arms where you would get an IV. One of your main veins is in the crease of your arm, and if you look in some of the promo videos, photographs, you can see that vein is inflamed, and it looks like it could have been where an IV was placed. And for Volkanovski and Dan Hooker to both come out and mention the IV, they're pretty serious allegations, and unless they knew it to be true, I find it hard to believe that they would make these sort of accusations. Dan Hooker, everyone knows he's a 50-50 fighter, right? He's never going to be a champion. He's an entertaining fighter. He had some really great fights with Paul Felder and Dustin Poirier, but I just don't think he's ever going to be able to get to that championship level. But nonetheless, I really like Volkanovski and Dan Hooker. I think they're both good dudes. They're straight shooters. They don't really put up with any people's bullshit. They're kind of, take it or leave it type of guys. They are who they are. They don't really get into the whole hoopla and all this bullshit that a lot of fighters like to get into. So for them to make these type of allegations, I think there has to be something to it. Not to mention that you can get sued for defamation in the world that they're in, right? So I think USADA has to investigate the situation. But I also feel Dan Hooker, when you make these type of allegations, you got to provide a little bit more evidence. And then his other tweet, which I really did not like, was him coming out and saying, prove me wrong. Well, when you make allegations, you have to prove the allegations to be true. It's not for people to prove you wrong. So I wish he would have, kept that, I think he getting a little emotional with the whole situation, which is understandable. But sometimes when you're doing and tweeting it out to the world and, all the, press that it got, you got to provide some serious evidence. But then Volkanovski coming out, I trust Volk more than I trust anyone. He doesn't play games. He would never try to make an accusation that's not true. So, if you look at Islam on the scale, he looked like death. They had to get the towel, curtain, whatever the hell that thing is. He looked like death on the scale. He's a weight bully at 155. Let's just, call a spade, right? The dude probably walks around 180 pounds, 185 pounds easily, right? And he's cutting down to 155. Your body can only do that for so long. You're cutting 30 pounds. It's not good for your body. It's not good for your kidneys. It gets to the point where you're so dehydrated that your organs start to fail. It happened to Khabib. Khabib and Islam are both weight bullies. They're incredible fighters, don't get me wrong. Their skill sets are incredible. But I just don't think they would be as dominant of fighters if they fought at their natural weight at 170. But it'll be interesting to see how much longer Islam can make this weight, because he struggled to make the cut in the Oliveira fight. He struggled again to make the weight. I think he might have 2 fights at the most. Say he fights 3 more times at 155, I can almost guarantee you one of those times he will miss weight. It's just a matter of time of when that happens. So all the things kind of add up, but who knows what happened. But that's besides the point. Let's get back to the task at hand and talk about the fight. The fight was amazing. The first round was really interesting. Volk landed the first big shot. I think it was a straight right hand that hit Islam right in the middle of the face, and he went, oh boy, I'm in a fight now. But then he returned the fire and dropped Volkanovski and won the first round. The most debated rounds, the fifth round was clearly for Volkanovski. If he had a little more ground time, it could have been a 10-8, but I think, he was only on top of him the last minute or two of that fifth round. So I agree with the judges. I think a 10-9 is warranted there. In the fourth round, I think it's crazy. People are saying that Volkanovski won that round. I guess with the new scoring, it's more about damage. But Volkanovski, we really saw his length and size play out in this fight. He hit him with a lot of straight. His jab was on point. He was hitting him with that straight left hand down the pipe. I mean, their size difference is pretty substantial. Like, that reach advantage really, really, really paid dividends for Islam in the striking. But at 55, when he fights a bigger guy, say Conor McGregor, that reach advantage or Dustin Poirier is going to be nullified. He's not going to be able to land those shots and stay at distance and be able to find those the jab and that straight left hand as easily. But let's talk about Alex Volkanovski's defense on the ground. Holy shit, man! His positioning. Every time Islam tried to get a better position, Volkanovski had an answer for it, man. It was so impressive. Besides in the fourth round when Islam kind of took a desperation shot, Volk was talking some shit to the corner, and sometimes when you talk shit, bad stuff happens, and that's what happened. He was able to get that body triangle in and kind of hold him down there. I do wish the referee stepped in at some point and brought them to their feet, because I think it was almost 4 minutes of ground time, and you could clearly see Islam was not trying to advance the position at all. He was kind of holding on. He looked a little gassed. He was, doing these half-assed attempts at submissions that weren't really trying to lock in submission. So I think the referee needs to identify that earlier and, warn him to press the action, or if you don't, advance your position, we're going to stand you up. You got to give them time to work, don't get me wrong, but it was lackluster in a championship fight. We want to see these guys fight and not have some dude just lock in a fucking body triangle and just hold him there for 4 minutes. That's not what the fans paid to see, right? But kudos to him. Volk said it on the interview with Ariel Helwani that it was his job to get out of the body triangle, and he also agrees that round was Islam's, right? So then we get into the second and third rounds, which were the most competitive rounds, I would say, where there were coin flips. Volk thought he won 2 and 3, and then Islam thought he won 2 and 3. So, those 2 rounds were extremely hard to judge. In those rounds we really saw, like I talked about earlier, is Islam did a really good job being patient and punching Volkanovski. He was able to parry that jab out there a little bit, lay that jab out there, and then soon as because Volk was at such a length disadvantage that he really had a blitz, bang, bang, bang. He had to run in when throwing combinations, and sometimes after those combos, Islam was able to bang with that jab and then boom, come with that left down the pipe. So his striking looked really improved. I really thought that he was going to use the leg kicks more, because sometimes when you think a guy's going to shoot on you, your hands are a little lower to try to stuff that takedown, and those body kicks and head kicks are there, which he didn't really use too much in the fight. With all that said, I do think Islam won the fight by 1 round. I think it was 3 rounds to 2 on my scorecard. I think I had the first, the fourth, and the third for Islam, and then 2 and 5 for Volkanovski. I would love to see that fight again. I think out of all the skill sets of potential opponents at 155, Volkanovski and maybe Beneil Dariush have the best skill sets for the type of fighter Islam is. It'll be really interesting to see how Dustin Poirier's ground game would hold up against Islam. But I mean, he had trouble with Khabib, obviously, and then Charles Oliveira. So I don't know if Poirier can, mitigate that ground attack of Islam and be able to keep getting to his feet consistently, right? So, in my opinion, Volk won 3 rounds. I mean, Islam won. In my opinion, Islam Makhachev won the fight 3 rounds to 2. Let me know in the comments down below who you thought won this fight, and should they rematch? Should they each go their own way and fight, Islam maybe in Dariush, and we go Volk and Yair, and then we see where the dust settles after those 2 fights. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel so we can continue to bring you some amazing MMA content. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the next fight.